Strike Zoo Zero Director's Cut, developed and published by Born Ready Games, is a re-release for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Originally released for PC in January of 2013, this version intends to bring a much refined story, new ships and weapons, improved visuals and the Heroes of the Fleet DLC. But the question is, does these quote-unquote improvements justify its worth? Let's find out in this review. In the year 2299, the UNE, or United Nations of Earth, have gained the ability for space travel and have colonised multiple planets, but over time the colonists have become tired of Earth's rule, therefore demanding independence. But ultimately, the situation becomes more problematic with the UNE not only in a civil war with their own colonies, but the colonials have a secret weapon that threatens Earth's survival. You assume the role of Adams, a UNE pilot with no memory of his past. With the conflict becoming desperate, you stumble across an AI and a prototype ship called the Strike Suit. It's then up to you and your allies to eradicate the colonial threat once and for all. Strike Zoo Zero Director's Cut has a total of 13 story missions plus an extra 5 missions as the Heroes of the Fleet campaign is included. The assignments you'll do will vary, such as eliminating hostile fighters, escorting your allies to a destination, intercepting mines, assaulting enemy supplies and so on. But despite the game trying to change up your objectives, ultimately you'll be shooting your foes into floating metal regardless of the situation. As you progress through the story, you'll unlock new weapons, performance upgrades and additional ships. But while the weapons and ships are unlocked through progression, performance upgrades are achieved by completing specific objectives, such as protecting your allies from torpedo attacks to completing missions within a specific time limit. Aside from the main story, there is the Heroes of the Fleet DLC which comes packaged within the game. Despite only having 5 missions, it does provide some extra content as they do test your combat abilities. The game's main feature is the Strike Suit, a prototype ship that has the ability to transform into a humanized robot. By killing enemies you gain flux energy which then can be used to transform into strike mode. This allows you to dodge incoming projectiles, shoot your foes with cannon fire or even use homing missiles to hit multiple targets at once. It can get chaotic when there's so many explosions going off in all directions, but transforming in and out of strike mode to take out numerous enemies is extremely satisfying. As I mentioned before, there are other ships that you can pilot, and while they do provide some variety, sadly they're pretty much obsolete due to how much emphasis the Strike Suit has, not only because it's more fun to pilot, but also it's more effective. In fact, a majority of the missions are designed to utilise the Strike Suit as you are forced to multitask numerous objectives, with the exceptions of the tutorial level at the beginning of the game, and then later on you're forced to control a bomber. As such, I think it's a shame that the other choices are made obsolete, considering there is a far superior alternative. Graphically, Strike Zoo Zero Director's Cut is a mixed bag. The ship designs and space stations look well designed, however the textures that accompany them do look dated as far as today's standards are concerned. Despite this, however, the background vistas look incredible as they are colourful as well as authentic, ranging from destroyed planets, cloudy nebulas, asteroid fields and so on. I also like how the space battles both make you feel you're accommodating to the cause, while a large quantity of allied and enemy units fighting in the background conveys a fitting sense of scale and chaos. The voice acting throughout the game is pretty good, and although the main character you play as doesn't speak, the voiceover work from the other characters do a decent job to drive the story around the protagonist. My only problem with the story is there's no dialogue from the enemy's point of view. Since it's told from one perspective, it would be better if there was voice acting from the other faction, therefore making the conflict more important and giving the story more weight. In short, Strike Zoo Zero Director's Cut is a fun arcade space shooter, but it does have its flaws. On one hand, the Strike Suit is fun to pilot, the background environments look atmospheric, the space battles are chaotic and there's good voice acting to progress the story. But on the other hand, the additional ships, despite giving some variety, do feel inferior, the textures look dated, the missions can get repetitive, and while the story is serviceable, it does leave a lot to be desired. Overall, Strike Zoo Zero Director's Cut gets a score of 3.5 out of 5.
Copy that, Command. It's been a pleasure.